If you're trying to buy a home in the Twin Cities for under $300,000, you might as well forget it. Buyers get stuck in bidding wars, and many homes are selling sight unseen in a matter of hours. Housing costs in the Twin Cities are 56% higher than the Midwest average. We're 37% higher than Chicago, double Cleveland and Indianapolis. So how did the Twin Cities become such an outlier? I explored several theories in a report published by Center of the American Experiment, but none of them explain the Twin Cities' uniquely high costs, except one: government policy and regulations. 1/3 of a new home's price in the Twin Cities is due to government action. Part of that comes from a slew of city fees for everything from parks to trees and trails to traffic. In almost every case, adding thousands, likely tens of thousands, to the cost of a home. And then there are the Minnesota building codes that place much stricter requirements on home building than any other Midwestern state. As of 2017, the code book affecting homes in Minnesota was 567 pages long. In a recent Pioneer Press article, a home builder in Fargo-Moorhead said he can build the same home on the North Dakota side of the river for $17,000 to $29,000 less than in Minnesota, almost entirely because of the state code. And finally, government policy has created skyrocketing land prices in the Twin Cities. The cost to buy residential land is 84% higher here than the Midwest average. And we can blame the Met Council. It's created an artificial growth barrier around the metro called the MUSA Line. Property inside the line is generally approved for development. Property outside the line is not. And as you'd expect, land costs are far higher inside the line. But the Met Council refuses to extend the boundary further out to create more land for development, recently stating, quote, "The region doesn't need more single-family homes," which of course is ridiculous, as thousands of families are desperately searching for just that. So government policies are what make housing costs so high here, but what can we do about it? Well, first, stop piling on new regulations. Take inclusionary zoning, which requires builders of multi-unit housing to rent some of the units at an artificially low rate. Sounds great, but in reality, those builders simply hike up the price of their market rate units, making housing less affordable for middle-income renters. And how about we take a look at those 567 pages of building code and eliminate some of the requirements that don't exist elsewhere or were put in place to appease some special interest. We should also rein in the Met Council and encourage cities to control their building fees by taking away some of their state housing aid if they refuse. And finally, when committing tax dollars to housing, government needs to be wiser. Restrict that money to truly affordable projects. Provide aid to developers as loans rather than grants. Focus money on tenants or home buyers themselves. But most importantly, demand that spending be coupled with significant government reform, because no amount of money will lower housing costs unless we also roll back the mandates, regulations, and fees that are driving up those costs in the first place.